Welcome to Just Say This, the place to get all the help you need for the birds and bees talks. I'm your host, Amy Lang. Just a quick reminder, this show is for grown-ups because I'll be swearing. There'll be lots of swears, and then I'll also be talking about grown-up sex. I can guarantee that your kids do not want to listen to this, and they really don't want to listen to it with you. You've been warned. Do you have a question for me? Please give me a call. The phone number is 206-926-1522, 206-926-1522, and I will answer on the show. And if you have a funny sex talk story, please call in those as well. 206-926-1522. Thanks. It's time for your weekly chirp. What's a chirp? It's a script. I'll be picking one topic every other week and give you a script. So are they going to be perfect? Oh my God, no. And if you don't like it or you have a real problem with it and you feel like you need to let me know, please don't be a dick about it. They're not going to be perfect. So you need to tweak the language to suit your family. The next thing is this. Is it going to get the ball rolling? That's the goal. I'm going to give you one little thing to talk to your kids about and you can get at it. If your kids are younger, you're going to dumb the language down, make it simpler. If they're older, you're going to make it more complicated. These are actually directed at 9-year-olds. So enjoy this week's chirp. Hello, I realize that I have not done a chirp about kink. So here's a chirp about kink. This is not something you would talk with your 6-year-old about when you're talking about sex and pleasure, but it's definitely something you can toss into the ring when you're talking about sex and pleasure with your older kiddos. I'm assuming your kids know what sex is, and so they have to know what it is before you have this conversation. And the reason they need to know is because when people have kinks or want to do things that are outside of the norm sexually, and they're young, they can think there's something wrong with them. And so it's really important to establish early on that everybody has different things that excite them and different things they like to do in bed. And it doesn't just have to be vanilla sex. Alrighty, here you go. Oh, before I go, ask them if they've heard of it. Ask them what they know, if they know what it is, because they may, and they may be confused or they may not know. So it's always good to do that because I think, as you already know from learning from me, that gives you time to sort out your answer. Even though in this case, you'll already have your answer. How are you going to talk about it? Okay, here we go. So most of the time, people have sex that is pretty typical. So they have vaginal sex, oral sex, anal sex, all the usual kissing, hugging, touching, cuddling, masturbating together, all of that good stuff that feels really good to people's bodies and that they agree to do. That's considered typical sex. Some people call it vanilla sex, and it's great. It is good sex. It can be really great sex. Sometimes people will have something called a kink or do something called kinky sex, and what that means essentially is that it's just outside of the norm of the things that people do that are usually pretty typical and common in their sex lives. As an example, sometimes when people are in a sexual relationship, they may want to do something called role playing. So they might pretend one person is a monster and the other person is like Dr. Frankenstein and play a role playing game that becomes something sexual. So that can be a kink for somebody. And the thing with kinks is that people get to define them for themselves. And the other thing about this is that you don't ever have to do anything that feels uncomfortable to you. While you're learning about yourself and sex as you're growing up, you'll figure out what you like and what feels good to you. But one of the things about kink is that, and sex, of course, in general, is that everybody needs to agree to whatever's going to happen. You need to be really clear what's going to happen so everybody knows what's coming and so they can be ready for it. And again, in agreement. So consent has to happen. Okay, there you go. As usual, not perfect. There's a really great article from Scarlet Teen in the show notes that jumps into fetishes and BDSM, so I'll give you some more words there. Alrighty, I think that is it from me. So if you have a script you need help with, please give me a call, 206-926-1522, and leave me a little message, and I will be sure to answer it on the show and give you a little script-ola. All right, thanks. That's it for this week. Thanks to everyone who's been calling in. The number's 206-926-1522, so please leave me a message if you have a question or a tale from the trenches. And thank you to Melanie Smith, my producer, and to Rolf, who wrote the Birds and Bees and Kids theme song.